Hello, my name is Ethan and welcome back to another episode of Path of Exile Metamorph League. In this episode I want to do the video that I promised before. So a while back I did my Baron build guide, and I wanted to have a follow-up to the Baron build guide answering viewers' questions, because I felt like it's impossible to make a video that will cover every single thing in a single video, and it would be much better to just continue to help people instead of needing to have one video answer all questions, which I don't think is possible because new questions are constantly arising. So I'm going to work with you guys to explain questions, and then hopefully people learn from it. The first question I copy-pasted into game. It says, Ethan, ever considered a CI version of the build to use ES instead of life? Do you see any big downsides in this option? This is from Andre. Okay, Andre. So the CI version of the build to use ES instead of life. So you're saying I would have one life in this case and I would go ES. So I did that last season. I had 11,000 ES, I did Ghost Reaver, I did strength stacking and all the things, and you take Chaos Inoculation. If anyone wasn't sure what CI is, it makes your life become 1 and you're immune to chaos damage, and then you go Ghost Reaver to convert the life leech into energy shield leech, so that you're an energy shield build and you don't build any life. You build strength, energy shield, and mana, and you're like a mana guardian, but you're a necro. And so the flat out really quick answer to that is Mistress of Sacrifice is the main reason I play a Necromancer. Mistress of Sacrifice allows Spirit Offering to affect me. Spirit Offering is based on my max life. It's a percentage of my max life. So the shield that we get from Spirit Offering to put us to 4,000 is actually because we have 6,700 life. And if we had 1 life because of Chaos Inoculation, we would lose our Spirit Offering Mistress of Sacrifice combo. So the thing I use as my 4-link cast damage taken Desecrate Spirit Offering combo, my Cyclone setup would also be broken. That is why I do not go CI version of this build. It's basically a Mana Guardian as a Necro, which you don't even take Mistress of Sacrifice. And the reason you would do a Necro like what you're saying, CI, you wouldn't take Mistress of Sacrifice, or you wouldn't go Spirit Offering. You would go Bone Offering or Flesh Offering, I guess, and then you'd take like Plague Bringer, Essence Glutton, or Commander of Darkness, and not Mistress. I had a comment from Goro that said I should either get the 15% cold exposure on my staff or the 60% increased hatred effect instead of Avian. And so with his advice, within the last 2 weeks, we have improved to get the hatred staff. I have a video on how to get the hatred staff. Thanks, man. Next question is, what do you think about Impale on zombies? So Impale by itself isn't enough for it to be worth it. For you to go Impale zombies, you must go all in. You have to run Dread Banner, Flesh and Stone, Maim support on that. You need the Impale support on your zombies. You need Pride. You're a full physical build. No hatred mod. It's a completely different build. It's basically, my opinion of it is, it's a great boss killer. And we're full screen AoE. We have a lot more area of effect on our auras, and our zombies cover a big area, whereas on the Impale zombie, you're a small circle of big damage, and I do think that you can get more damage out of the Impale version, but it's smaller. It's almost like comparing Blade Vortex to a full screen Cyclone. That's my opinion of Impale on zombies compared to our build. I like my big full screen Blight build. But if I was to do bossing, it does seem like the Impale zombies would be pretty good, or for delving. Another question from Andre is, Monogruel's Grasp version of such build makes any sense at all, or would you lose too much of damage leech in that case? So I've found that Monogruel's Grasp is a very, very good, cheap, budget version of our build. It's insane how strong Monogruel's Grasp is, honestly, and you could probably use it to infinite delve just because of the fact of the exploding corpses thing. It creates a lot of clear that you wouldn't normally have. So Monogrill's Grasp is a very good alternative to in the build, and you wouldn't lose too much damage or leech. You might lose like the survivability on the zombies because of all the levels and shit, and damage, but it's still pretty good. This next one isn't exactly a question, but it's like he points out how he didn't understand something, so I will try to help explain it better now. So he says, I do not understand why the low level cast and damage taken and a mortal call, though. Also, considering your high armor, especially after Flask, could Molten Shell be an option? So, the cast and damage taken triggers the Immortal Call, giving this reduced elemental and physical damage taken. The reason we have it on a low level one is because the cast and damage taken setup wasn't for Immortal Call. The Immortal Call was the last thing I added to the cast and damage taken. So I started with Desecrate and Spirit Offering, and I wanted it to trigger as much as possible, which means the lowest level cast and damage taken setup as possible to get as many Desecrate Spirit Offerings as possible for every hit. The Immortal Call was just bonus. It turns out that you need a level 3 Immortal Call. That's why I use it. It especially helps against big hits, infrequent, and can help for one-shots. It's amazing. You should really want Immortal Call in the build. The next thing is, have I considered Molten Shell? Well, when I go delving, I replace Stone Golem because it dies delving anyways. I don't use him in delving, and I replace it with Val Molten Shell, and then I use a Soul Ripper. If you don't know what a Soul Ripper is, it's this flask to make the Val Molten Shell not have soul gain prevention. This next question is, what? You left out the Timeless Jewel. Yep. So this is my Timeless Jewel. 80% increased life, 80% increased damage, 80% increased damage, and 80% increased damage for like a bunch of points. And what I found is to use this jewel, you would probably need at least 2 points. So this is an Elegant Hubris. It can be Kadiro, Victario, or the other one. It doesn't matter. And then you don't need the number either. Just buy one of these. It's like 8C. Put it in the spot and see what it gives you. Seriously, don't worry about the one I have. Just check the spots for minion damage and minion life, and every single one of the points is good, worth it, and the more, better. So if I had 5, I would take 5. If I had 6, I would take 6. If I had 7, I'd take 7. That'd be insane, okay? Getting a 1 is bad. Getting a 2 is better. That's where it starts to get pretty good. 2, it looks pretty good. 2 nodes. You need 3 for it to be like starting to get really good, because then it almost doesn't matter where. I had a 2, so these two, 80%, for 4 points, and I was like, yeah, that's probably like some of the dirtiest shit you could do. And obviously these are some of the worst points in the entire thing because they're so far. But yeah, that's the Elegant Hubris Timeless Jewel. Sorry I didn't show it in the video. I make mistakes. As I mentioned, I can't cover everything because I will miss stuff because there's so much going on. Next question. Something that I felt was missing, though, is what passives to prioritize on the tree after you get your strength. I'm guessing some minion wheels and maybe defenses, which is most valuable. So actually, the way I look at the build personally is, like I've mentioned, you have the Shaper's Touch, the weapon, the helmet, and the chest plate that you don't replace. You have these other items that get pretty expensive and are pretty hard to craft and give you tons of stats and are the main parts of your build, wouldn't you say? That the Ami and the boot and all these main items carry a lot of the stats in a build. So I recommend getting your items, and then when you're saying, what do I do with these extra few points at the end? That's unique to your build based on the items you have decided to buy. Now that is where I can only recommend that in the case that, let's say, you look at this defense page and your elemental res isn't over 75%, or your chaos res isn't 75%, you could probably go into those. So elemental res is potential faith and steel and stuff like that. If you don't have the chaos res, you could take the extra chaos res nodes. If you feel like you don't have enough life, because if you have less than 5,500 life, you probably don't have enough, you can spec into more life. if you're failing Blight because you don't have enough damage, take more damage. It's so simple, right? Take more damage nodes. Maybe take a jewel socket and put one of those Covenant jewels in. So what I recommend is just completing your tree with a unique thing that you need specifically for your build. Don't worry about copying all the way all the time. The point of the build is a concept. It isn't so you copy down to the T. It's get as close as you can, and then you square it up with the extra items that you can, because the build is so open. Next question is, you said you get 2 of each chieftain. Where does your 4th Specter come from? And any way to get endurance charges for a boosted immortal call? I was confused when I first read IC. I was like, what? Chaos and knock. So I don't always use 4 Specters. It's like, it depends on how I'm feeling and what I'm doing. But I turned it into more of a delve build after. But basically, you get 3 from the Specter by having the gem over level 25. So at level 25 of Raised Specter Gem, you get 3, and the 4th one comes from Death Attunement, but I'm not using it right now. Instead, I'm allocating Ravenous Horde, and I don't path up to Death Attunement because I get all of the survival of Death Attunement right here with only losing 1 zombie. Pretty good. Next question from Addo is, why Soccer Walls over Geo Freeze? So Soccer Walls, I've had this debate with myself a lot actually recently. It depends on the content that you're doing. Basically, we were pushing to AFK tier 16 Blight 100% success rate all the time without any input into the game. And so I just kept finding that I needed more damage, more damage, more damage. And then I tried Avian with Soccer Walls, and I found that the damage increase was literally 20% more, not even counting the move speed boost. And so this was a huge damage upgrade to the build, and I honestly couldn't really replace, like, getting a Geo Freeze in our build is bad because we don't have any energy shield scaling except for the Shaper's Touch, which we only have 1500 strength. In my previous version last season, I actually took like energy shield scaling, and so if you went energy shield, it was actually worth it. You could take the hybrid nodes and all this stuff. I don't take any of them, therefore energy shield is a lot worse in my build. And so Geo Freeze is worse. And if you go Geo Freeze, you want to all in on the Geo Freeze. You want to go full energy shield. You want to go full all in strength stacking. I don't want to. I want to be the hybrid as much as I can because I feel like the life version of the build is really strong, and I like the damage from Soccer Walls. How do I get the aspect of the Avian recipe? Well, you first get the Soccer Wall Rex, you fight it, and then you get a recipe, and everyone in your party, when you kill it, also gets the recipe, so you could Rhoda the recipe, and then you can craft it as a suffix with Einhar crafting. Pretty simple, but I also have a video for it if you want to see that. Tehran says, hi pal, nice guide. Would it be better to craft the weapon or just buy it? I do not have recipes though. How much of a currency difference is? I saw them going for 10x plus. So if you don't have the recipes especially, you should probably just buy it. They're not that expensive right now. They're over created because everyone likes crafting their own weapon for some reason. The weapon is the most over crafted thing I've ever seen in this game. Everyone knows about the weapon and everyone crafts the weapon, and everyone asks that question you're asking me. It's like, that's the most common shit, is stuff about the weapon, and it's kind of crazy. So I think that you could just go buy it, you could craft it. Really, it's up to you. You don't have the recipe, so it sounds like it's way easier just to buy it. And I recommend, 10x isn't that bad, honestly. Good luck. Another question is, hey, best way to get the Baron in SSF? Well, we know of 2 ways. I got the Baron through chancing close helmets. You can also get it from Blight and mapping in general. So like Blight was really good. Like Legion should probably be able to drop it through the uniques, incubators, and all that. Yeah, so that's how I would try to get it. A guy commented, thinks that if you're gonna go the Baron, Ascendant Chieftain, Slayer might be a better good alternative to Necro. It gets 10% more strength and Overleach from your zombies. I find Overleach is shit after testing it, so we wouldn't care about that anyways. and so we would still run Necro. Thanks for the video. Have you seen the price of the efficient training jewel? It doubled. Damn! A viewer told me how the problem with the Emperor's Jewel, it's like, okay, you don't need the Emperor's Jewel, just run a Brawn. Problem solved. Okay, this seems very different from last league, a lot less strength than ES. How does tankiness compare? What are the pros and cons between the two versions? I know you hit a pretty deep delve last league. And so what I found is at around 1200 delve, the tankiness of my build became basically very low. In both seasons, I found at 1200, it was do not get hit by multiple things, and I just made my zombies unkillable with big damage. And so the difference is we got pretty much just as tanky as we were last season. We have about 3 or 4 times more damage, and our zombies can be more tanky. So we have a lot more room to work with this time, and it's way better this season. This question wasn't a question but a statement about my thing. On my Onslaught Silver Flask, I had move speed, and apparently the move speed didn't stack with the move speed from a Quicksilver, but if you have the move speed on the Quicksilver, then it works. So I switched it, and thanks, man. Thank you, Chris. So now I get 70% move speed instead of only getting the 40 or 30-40. Yeah, that doesn't stack. So dumb. So those are all the questions, those are all the concerns. I think that could help a lot of people. Again, I will do the same thing if there are a ton of questions and still a ton of concerns and things people want to know about the build and they don't understand or whatever. I will make another follow-up to this video and answer even more questions about the build. Hope you enjoyed. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my Patreon and YouTube members and my subscribers on Twitch who financially support the channel. So thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members, Trenix, Hannah, Steven C, Last Fable, Stacy, Boggy, White Wolf, YouTube members, Garbar, Trenix, White Wolf, Farkbone, Kerbet, John, Luch, Lamprey, Dawood, Dubu, Goose Eggs, and Gabriel, and my 60 subs on Twitch. What the? Oh, they also started this new thing. It's Streamer Love. So when we're getting subs and gifts and stuff, emotes are being shared, and pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. They last for like 2 weeks, and they're permanent apparently.